Welcome to Bots&Beer Online. And I'm currently screen sharing. I hope you can see a document that just basically says hi and, points out that you need your microphone to be green to be able to talk. And we're not expecting too many people on Meetup, although we're planning on doing this more frequently. So I hope it becomes a good replacement for our weekly Bots and Beers. And we have a guest speaker tonight, and we will have guest speakers at all of our Bots and Beers and our speaker events going forward. But while people come online, I will go ahead and say a few words about Silicon Valley Robotics and who I am. So I'm Andrew Kay, Managing Director of Silicon Valley Robotics. We're the nonprofit industry group supporting innovation and commercialization of robotics technologies. Normally, we have an office at Circuit Launch, which is a very great co-work space for hardware, robotics, and AR, VR, AI, and all sorts of cool companies. And Jillian is our roboticist in residence there. And it was actually super sad on Monday to see everybody packing up their monitors and their printers and their robots and taking them all home. But of course, all of us in the San Francisco Bay Area are currently in a shelter at home situation. And while it's not as severe necessarily for people in other locations, I think it's going to get that way. I've been communicating a lot with people in China and South Korea over the last couple of months, and they've been going through very similar lockdowns, and they rippled out through Europe, of course. So I actually believe that we're going to be experiencing a much longer period of limited physical events. So this is a great opportunity for us to start working on some online events. Instead of cancelling our Bots and Beer, for the foreseeable future, we'll be doing an online Bots and Beer with speakers. And I'm looking at augmenting the program with some other speaker events for particular topics. So one of the topics that I actually hope we're going to kick off this Friday afternoon is a robots and coronavirus meetup, where we bring together some people who are spearleading some efforts to address coronavirus. And we have a lot of very smart people in the community, and we have a lot of resources. How can we bring them together to tackle some of the shortages that we're going to be facing locally that are already starting to emerge? And in fact, I got an email this afternoon from on behalf of the White House asking what my manufacturing capacity was for a range of important supplies. And I'm sharing that in the robotics community. And we're creating actually on our website more of a place where you can see what's needed and see where to get information about the different groups that are looking to volunteer different responses. And can anybody else hear the robot in the GoToMeeting? Because my laptop is still giving me the robot that's roaming around my room at the moment, and I'm just wondering if you can hear it. The robot says hi. At least I could hear it. Okay, cool. So I see a few more people online. That's great. I'm going to introduce our guest speaker, Jillian Ogle, the CEO and founder of Remo TV, who's created a super great website platform. The robot says, "Go Jill," for teleoperation of robots, which is perhaps the most timely thing that we could possibly talk about at the moment. How do you build a telepresence robot? How do you teleoperate a robot? And how do we get involved? So over to you, Jill, and I'll make you presenter.
Awesome. We can just go in the wrong way there. How are you guys doing this evening? I am, thanks for having me be here and talk. So thank you. I am trying to practice a little bit more of gratitude. So thanks for showing up. Thanks for being here and spending your time to listen to all of this. And I'll try not to, we'll make it good. So we'll keep going. So today I am going to just go through a few things. I want to talk a little bit about me and Remo. We're going to do a little bit of a demo section, and then I'm going to bring it back to the deck, and we're going to talk about just a few more things, and then I'll open it up to Q&A. Just to give you a little bit of my background, so I used to be a game designer. I used to work for Disney Interactive. I was making indie games for a while. I have like 2 games shipped on Steam, another on iOS, and I worked on dozens of titles while I was at Disney. For the last few years, I've been messing with telerobotics and just internet-controlled anything I can think of. I think I've been kind of messing with that since like 2014, 2015. I founded Let's Robot in 2016. That was my first startup. It went bust, so now I'm on my second, which is Remo, which I've been working on since about the summer. So I have a few motivations for doing this project, and so there's like kind of these high level goals, and then there's these more intrinsic motivations. So I just want to talk a little bit about like why I got into this in the first place. And it was mostly because I was working at home a lot, and I was very isolated quite a bit when I had left Disney and I was working on games on my own. And I had gotten into like video live streaming and chatting with people while they were watching my stream and while I was developing games, and that was a lot of fun interaction. Over time, I began to see like people make interactive games that were accessible via Twitch through the chat. So you'd enter a chat command, and it would make like for instance, the first big one that blew up there was Pokemon. So if somebody hooked up Pokemon, you could type in the chat like for a command to the character, and the character would go there. And I thought, well, that's cool. That's like fun and interactive. Like, what's the craziest thing you could do with this idea? And so I started messing with robotics and getting robots to live stream. And I had some, some interest and some traction with that. So I've kept at it. More broadly, and I wrote this slide maybe a month ago, before all of this coronavirus stuff like kind of blew up. And I think this is actually more poignant than ever now. But basically the internet is read only for the most part. You can chat, but for the most part it's just this window, this one-way interaction. Like, we're still sort of consuming content in a way where it's just coming at us. Like, we don't really have a whole lot to do back. Like live streaming and live chat, like there's a little bit of interactivity, but I kind of wanted to take it to another level. And yes, yeah, there's robots on my floor right now. We'll get to those later. But basically, like what I want to do is like simple. Like, it may be hard, but it's pretty simple and straightforward. Like, I really want to make robotics accessible to as many people as possible. So not just engineers, not just technical people. Like anybody should be able to use robotics to do things that they want to do, that kind of stuff. So I want to build something that's fairly general purpose, that is accessible for people to both use and control robots, but also to add robots, and then sort of maximize the compatibility of devices to the platform as well. And then, yeah. So, and then there's kind of a lot of things that you can do with this. So kind of where I started was like sort of copying games. So like you could like making really game-like experiences. So like escape rooms, like other forms of interactive entertainment. I used to do like little scavenger hunts and hide stuff around the house for the robots to find. And then I realized this could be a little bit more broad. Like I've been talking with at least a couple educators now about using like our platform to help bootstrap telerobotics, telepresence. That sort of thing could also be good for startups and small mom and pop operations that want to like bootstrap telerobotics infrastructure. And then, you know, it's like kind of fun as well. It's fun to have robots running around and there's people on them and they're talking and interacting with stuff. And then that'll get me to what wow, it's like kind of hot in here. So that gets me to what I've been building. So I've been working on this, like I said, since about June. It's got, all right, hold on one second. Guys go play somewhere else. So what I've been building, it's got low latency video, real-time teleoperation. I've made sure that the application works well on mobile and on desktop. We have private and public servers, so if you want to share your robot with just people you know and trust, you can do that. If you want to put it in a public directory and let anyone on the web use it, you can also do that. There is everything pretty much is open source, so the software that runs on the robot itself, that's open source. The platform, that's open source. So all the links are actually on the front page of remo.tv. And then like as far as like the whole infrastructure goes, so I'm just using like a standard Node Express framework. So Node.js on the back end. On the front end, I'm using React.js, and we're using secure WebSockets, and there's a REST API for like kind of a, so the WebSockets are for like the high frequency stuff, like sending commands back and forth. REST API is stuff like logging in or like other less things where real time isn't that important. And then the robot itself also has a client. Right now, the controller that we have runs on a Raspberry Pi. It's encoding to just a basic MPEG-2 because we're just doing the first most basic thing that works. And then it also has a WebSocket connection to the server. The whole server right now is sitting behind a reverse proxy, and then that sort of lets us inject some of the moderation tools like in between the clients and the server. And then we have a number of services internal. So database, we're using Postgres. We're using just using like JSON Web Token and Passport for authentication and that kind of stuff. And we the video is right now is just a simple relay. It's written in Go. We're using SendGrid for doing emails and notifications, and then I've actually done some custom integrations with the Patreon API. So that way, if people are contributing to our Patreon, they'll also get rewarded on the site with like cool little rewards and stuff, and I'll show you those when we get to that part. As far as like robot builds, like they're pretty open. I'm trying to keep the whole thing like as you know, platform or hardware agnostic as I can. So this like a lot of the robots that run on the site right now, they're Raspberry Pi based. But other people you can use like a BeagleBone, you can use a Jetson. The controller software, like you should be able to get it to work with some of those things. So typical robots, they have a camera, they have a microphone, they have a speaker, you know, some sort of onboard power source. They could be, you know, tethered to the wall. They could be running around the house, you know, or in your car, or wherever you want to put robots. In this case, usually they'll have some sort of separate microcontroller apart from the Raspberry Pi. And then we support a bunch of different interfaces out of the box. And And then yeah, that motor controller usually talks to like the motors, servos, sensors, all of that feedback, and then that'll get back. You can pipe that back up to whatever you want to do with your interface. So because we've had a lot of open source contributions, there's a lot of stuff that just works out of the box. So there's at least 2 kits available, one by Parallax Robotics and another by Neekbot, and there are the websites. And so you can go buy kits right now for Remo from both of those sites. We've also done like kind of third-party integrations. Like one of the things that I just one of our users added was like an Android app that will connect to like the Sphero rover. And so you just stick your phone in here and then that turns it into a full telepresence robot that works on the site. And so yeah, we have like a controller that works on Android. People have been using OBS a lot. There's a bunch of boards that already have pre-existing interfaces written. And basically anything that's like done over like USB or serial also works pretty well. So I'm gonna just kind of quickly show you Remo TV and how it works. So oops, I gotta like figure out how this gets working here and get over here. Oh my goodness. Oh, and there's, yeah, so this is a, wait, come on. I gotta wait for my video here to catch up. I think the screen sharing's slowing my computer down quite a bit here. Oh wow. Oh, sorry. This is really eating my computer up. Hold on a second. Da-da-da-da. Five, six, seven, eight. Yeah, this thing's using up 400% of, well, yeah. I don't have that much CPU. I think it's the screen sharing.
Yeah, it's going pretty well for a live demo. Maybe we can flip it.
So just I think I can, so without doing too much here, so just to give you kind of a lay of the land, can you guys see my cursor? Because I can't see what you see. Yes. All right, cool. So if you sign in, this will be the front page that you get. If you want to add a robot, the repo is right here. That's, so yeah, software for adding a robot. If you're interested in the platform, that repo link is also right here. You can see we have like 46 people online. There's 17 live devices, and then yeah, like users that have signed up. Just quickly, if you have trouble setting up and you want some help, or you just have some questions, if you join our Discord, that's a pretty good resource if you just wanna figure some more stuff out. Also, shameless Patreon plug right here, if you're interested in helping us out as well. And so if you were to come in and it was your first sign up, you actually wouldn't see all these. Instead, you would just see this browse button and this add server button. So if you clicked on browse, you would get these rows of things. I haven't added like an image uploading service yet. So all the images are the same currently for everyone's server. But basically, I've been kind of building a Slack. I've been basing it like off of Slack or Discord, where you have like a server, and that server has channels, and you can invite whoever you want and sort of assign them roles and all that stuff. So all of these robots here that you see are public, and all the ones outlined in green have live robots on them. So if I click into one, so this is mine right now. This is in our living room, kitchen. Yeah, my roommates are back there eating dinner. There's people on this robot. Let's see if we can get one that's not so laggy.
So maybe
the performance is usually pretty real time, but my computer's eating or dying right now, so it's having a lot of trouble just doing anything at the moment. But yeah, these robots are just running around in the house. So there's a video feed here, there's a chat feed here, so there's other people here in the chat. And you can, if you had like text-to-speech hooked up for your robot, for instance, you could type in the chat and the robot would speak. There's an interface here that is customizable with the JSON. So there's just this little edit buttons tab down here. And then these are just like JSON key value pairs. So you could change it dynamically, go forward if my computer was actually working well here. Yeah, so see there, oops. So yeah, that changed it like pretty instantly. That'll update to all the users that are using the robot pretty instantly. So over here, you'll see that there's like channels. So these are the different robots that I have. So Diva's here on my desk. Hello. Yep, there we go. Just hanging out up here. If you want to see what that one looks like, it is, say hello. So that's just like one of the robots that I built, and I have like 2 more around in the house. You can so like just to kind of show you some of the other things that people have built. This one's like really fancy. It's one of my favorite. It's a beer pong robot, and let's see if I can't tell if it's not working or if it's my computer. Maybe we'll try a different one. Oh yeah, here we go. So so this one, I actually don't know where this guy is. So I know he's told me, I think he's somewhere in like the Midwest. So he made his robot to see it's like forward, back, left, right. This one has like a pan tilt, and you can turn lights off and on. And I think for some reason he has like a strobe light. Yeah. Let's see, we've got the claw machine. There's usually people on this one. I think things are just slow for me no matter what. I'm very, very sorry about that. But you get the idea. It's like a claw machine. You grab stuff. It's real time. I think he's also doing some protein folding with his computer bandwidth to help cure coronavirus. And I think a bunch of our community members are also doing that as well. Sort of like clustering in and adding to this like coronavirus effort. Let's see what else we got online. So we got these 2 little guys. I think this guy's all the way in, I always forget if it's Norway or Sweden. But yeah, these are little robots. I think they're using ESP32s for the video. Hi. Let's see if somebody's already talking to me. So yeah, this guy's got 2 robots. They're live, so I could just like switch to the other one and then see myself on the other robot. Yay, see? Pretty cool. Recon Delta. So I'm always bad at remembering where people are. So I want to say either Nebraska or Illinois, and those are probably both wrong. But I think this is a makerspace over there. And this is also the guy that wrote the Android controller. So I think this one's actually a Sphero rover. And I think this one's just an Android-based bot. So you can see there's like people on these robots. They're using them. There's like people in the chat. They're having conversation. You know, people are just like kind of doing stuff together. And then if you want to say hi to Andra, here we are. Hi, Andra.
Hi. Cat Joy on the table.
Yeah. And then just to kind of wrap it up, so just a few things that I want to show you. Oh, I think I've got a little, everything's being weird just because my computer is chugging. Come on, get back there. All right, we're back home. Okay, so I'm on my server, like I want to add a robot, like how do I do that? If you just go down here, there's a button that says add a robot. You click on that and you name it whatever you want, and it'll make a robot basically by that name. If you go click on the robot that you've made, it'll give you an API key, and you can just copy that to the clipboard, and then that goes in a config file for the controller. And then you just point it at one of your channels. And your channels, everything has like settings, so you can change the name of your channel. You can set it as your default channel. You can delete it. Your server also has settings, so once you set it up, you can just go in here. So you can make it unlisted, so you can take it off that public directory. You can make it private and only invite people you want to into it. We have a couple other options, like we've been working on this phonetic filter for filtering chat messages phonetically, since we're using text-to-speech, just to help keep things like, moderated and stuff like that. If you want to invite people, if it's a private server, you have to give them an invite link. But if you generate a link, and you can just like copy that to the clipboard. If you delete this link, it'll deactivate the link, so anybody who got that link won't be able to follow it anymore. But if you don't delete the link, like people will be able to join your server. If they haven't signed up to Remo, it'll take them all the way through account creation and then right back to your server once you're done. And I think that's like mostly it. So
there was one question in the chat.
Oh, sure.
From Fred, I think, saying, is the website the best place to start? And he can see two GitHubs, Jillytot and Remo TV.
Yeah, so you want Remo. Yeah, so you want Remo TV. So that's where the controller stuff is. So we can just like go there real quick. So we go back to the front page. So we can click on software for adding a robot, and that'll take us to the GitHub. And this is the controller that would run on a Raspberry Pi. If you actually just go, this by default, this is like the most common thing that people do. If you scroll down a little bit, there is some instructions here. So installing everything is basically just these steps. And then after that, it's usually just setting up the config. So you just open the config, and then you enter the API key, and I can show you what that file looks like. So we'll go into controller.sample.conf. Yes. So if you go here, there's just a few configuration settings. You can enter your username, and this will unlock some chat commands for your robot. This is where you put your API key, and this is where you would tell it what channel you want to point it at. And then it's like, what sort of controller are you using? Are you using a motor hat? Are you using just a normal like L298N motor driver? Or just I typically use a serial board myself, so I usually just have a separate motor controller talking to it over the serial bus. And then just a number of like really detailed settings. So it'll just mostly depend on the hardware that you use, how you want to set it up. And if you're ever unsure about that, that's the sort of thing you can go into the Discord and ask us about. So I'm going to just back up a little bit. So if you just go zoom out here to the Remo TV group in general, you can see that there's, this is the default controller, but we also have one for Android. So if you want to make an Android robot, that's right there. Nice. And I think that's kind of most of things. I think, so like one more thing, if you go to your profile, you can link your Patreon account, and that'll give you cool chat rewards and stuff like that. So if I maybe cyber, yeah. So you see like this like rainbow name and the chat badge, like those are all Patreon rewards. So you can just add a little flair to your name to show support and stuff. And so that's awesome. Thank you. Yeah, so that's the platform. So if I just, so let's just go back real quick to the slides. My computer is whirring with excitement.
So one other question. Are you looking
sure.
for contributors to Remo for any software development or hardware development and kits? Any of the things you're working on at the moment?
Yeah, so yes, I will talk about that in just a sec. I just want to get through the, no worries.
And the Patreon, of course, too. Contributors there, welcome.
So that was Remo, and I just wanted to share a few more things before I wrapped up. So I just want to show you some of the cool user-created robots that we've had. So this group is called 8 Bits in a Byte. So they made Ted the Toaster, who was running as a 2020 candidate. Luckily, the Democratic field is narrowed, and Ted had to drop out. And then they also made like the internet monster. So it just kind of typed it said what you typed, but it was all cute and stupid looking. The bullshit detector isn't online, but it was pretty funny because you would just type in something and it would use like AI to figure out if you were lying or not. And it would, just say bullshit or not, basically. Recon Delta, we were on This Guy's Robots earlier, so he's built all these things. It was a pretty cool Etch-a-Sketch bot. We had a user make this like marble maze that you just like tilt around and you move, try to hit the goal. Droop Cat, this guy's made like a whole like a whole robot adventure land in his living room. And you can like go visit Area 51 and stuff when he's online. Skeeter made it's just a single LED. It's called LED Bot. It's amazing. You can change the color and that's it. It's super good. Booby, I'm never sure if it's Booby or Bubby. I should probably ask that. And but he made all those cool little robots. I think we were playing with a couple. He also made like really cool virtual bots. Hopper was the robot we were on that had the strobe light. That was pretty funny. And so these two users, Espresso and Cybergoose. So these guys actually met through the platform, and they both independently have their robots that they run. So Espresso likes to go cave diving, and he has like a cave rover, and he actually lets people drive around in caves and stuff and explore with them using the site. And so him and Cybergoose actually met up. So one of them lives in Tennessee, the other lives in Indiana. They like Cyber drove 6 hours to meet up with Espresso, and then they had their bots together, and then they set up some games, and we had some fun. So those were fun times. So there's a number of things that I want to do. So kind of getting back to some of that software stuff. So I'm basically right now kind of the main developer on Remo. We have a bunch of open source community contributors. So like people who work on the robot side software and other stuff. And then this is kind of a lot of the things that I want to accomplish in the near term. Probably the biggest on this list for me is updating to H.264, just so we have a little bit more compatibility with the video. I actually just wrapped up the first pass, the notification system, and a bunch of other stuff there. There's a few things that I want to do, like around scalability, but that will probably require funding. I'm still on the fence about a kit, but if I could find like a really good person to partner with to develop a kit that's dedicated for Remo, like that would be helpful. So for like the open source community, so we have a lot of contributors. Jed has helped a lot with like the web platform and building a lot of the moderation tooling that we have. Same with Skeeter, helps a lot with the moderation, and him and Nocturnal both help with the Raspberry Pi controller. And you know, a lot of these other guys also contribute. Yeah, Recon Delta made the Android controller. And then I get some help with like, you know, the robot side software and the social media and stuff like that. And we have like a really awesome group of moderators too that help keep people behaved and stuff like that. Last shameless plug. So that's our Patreon. Thanks to all those Patreon supporters. And thank you for listening and showing up and seeing what I have to talk about. So just to sort of quickly cover Andrew's question about potential collaborators, like I am sort of at that. So my plan originally was to kind of take my time with this and just kind of work on it as a side project. But as this coronavirus stuff has developed, like I'm definitely seeing interest in Remo, like go up a bit. And you know, and I think something like this is really helpful for people right now, especially since we're all kind of stuck in our homes. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun to just have people over on the robots all day hanging out with us while we're just, you know, stuck in the house and we can't get out. So it's, you know, it's good to have a way to interact with people and for people to have some sort of autonomy and stuff like over that. So you know, I guess a couple of things I have to do, and I still need to figure out what my strategy is here, is like I would like to work with more developers, especially somebody on the website or somebody who's really good with video technology. And then, as we talked about a little bit earlier, I'm very interested in working with somebody who's really good with robotics and hardware. Like I'm just a bit of a hacker, so you know my knowledge is very narrow. I need some, you know, it would be nice to work with somebody who has like just wide, deep knowledge about all of this stuff and you know, to help out with. So I am looking for potential, like, you know, people to work with, but I don't have any more criteria beyond that right now. And I think that's it. So let's see, I see some more questions. So what challenges do you see accomplishing the objectives on your roadmap? Mostly it's just my personal finances. I can do a fair amount. I could do most of what is needed on there, like in a given amount of time. And kind of the main thing that would block me is just being able to pay rent and buy food and stuff like that. It would go better or faster with funding. Or you know, with some people to work with, like on a more regular, consistent basis. And then yeah, there's like definitely things that I wouldn't even try to attempt without getting some funding, like making the whole thing like you know, multi-server scalable, whatever, right? And all of that stuff. So how do you plan to monetize? How can others monetize their own bots using your system? That's also a good question. So one of the things that I want to do is I want to add a currency. So it's sort of like a you know, in a game like those Facebook games or iPhone games where you know, you can go and you can play the game for free, but then there's a few things that cost money. And so and so like in this case, there might be a few commands that cost money. And I actually explored that model a bit with Let's Robot. It worked fairly well. So people did actually buy the coins. And then some of the commands were locked to requiring that coin. And so when that money was spent, when people bought like, you know, like 100 robits is what we called them. Like that would cost, or you know, 1,000 robits, that would cost like $10, yeah, like $12 or something like that. So we would get our cut right there. We'd take like that, you know, that $2 or whatever, and then that And then the rest of that would just go straight into the currency. So if you spent like 1,000 robits on somebody, that would equal, they would get $10, right? So that's kind of how we had it set up. So we had a few broadcasters there who, we had one person who was making like at least $1,000 a month because she had like a ping pong cannon in her office and people would just shoot her with it. It was pretty funny. And then, so it's like giving people the tools to monetize their content and then just splitting that revenue stream with them is basically what it is. And if you want other examples, you can look at like Twitch. Twitch has their bits. They have, you can do this like sort of voluntary subscription to a broadcaster. So it's another channel for money that's like monthly recurring. And a Mixer is another, like Mixer.com is another good website to look at as well. And I don't know, are there any more questions?
Oh, I think that's a good run.
All right.
Thank you so much for an excellent presentation, and the slides are awesome. I think that's what shows up the most. I'm going to swap over to showing just the notes again now. And
right.
Yeah, great presentation. And oh, a comment about Python, I think, or did you cover that one?
So the whole controller is written in Python. It's not required, but it's just basically the wrapper for the API is in Python. So yes.
Well, excellent. And now what we're going to do is move over to the open mic part of the Bots&Beer. I hope you've all got your beverages. I confess I had mine, but it's finished. But we can all relax a little bit because we're at home and we don't need to drive. I think that can be a benefit of doing the online meetups. But now in the open mic section, everybody has an opportunity to say hi, say a little bit about who they are, what they're working on, and particularly if you have an ask for the meetup. So if you're looking for co-founders or investment, or if you're hiring, or if you're looking for work. And there is also a whole lot of things around how COVID is affecting you at the moment, because at the moment, I think we've all gone through a lot of disruptive changes. So if you want to share a little bit about how things are affecting you, that's great. If you want to talk, just sing out, wave your hand, or type your name into chat. So I will call on you if you'd prefer to do it that way. Oh, and one more question. Someone wants to know, Jill, how do your housemates deal with the bots running around all the time?
Oh, I think they have a lot of fun. You know, we try to keep it all like low friction, but you know, it's basically us three all the time, and then you know, it's nice to have the robots because it's like other people. So it's not just always us three. So we'll see how this goes as time goes on. So who knows how we'll all feel about everything in like 2 weeks or 4 or 12 or however long it takes.
I just had the robots on for an hour and they've already been banished from a couple of things in our house. We'll see. Now, who would like to go next and say a little bit more about what they're doing? Someone want to just wave their hand and I'll call on you, or your name in the chat?
Oh, hell, I'll jump in.
Great.
Yeah, this is Fred. If you recall, I was up there, gosh, 21st, I guess, to demo Small Cat, and unfortunately, didn't come out. The demo didn't quite work, but that's been a lot of fun. It's a project from Worcester Polytechnic Institute. Basically, it's designed to be a collegiate level quadrupedal simulation, you know, gate experimentation robot, which I think is really cool. And so I really enjoyed playing with that, and that's been my current passion. So hope to actually, I'm doing some mods right now and kind of deep surgery for small cat. Wish it well. I hope it's going to recover, and lots more to show off about. Yes, thank you. With small cat.
Sorry to hear that small cat needs surgery. Was that the new head replacement with the interactive eyes, or something else gone wrong?
Actually, it's closer to a gone wrong, but not really. So it's essentially a BEC, battery elimination circuit. So that appears to be underpowered. If you look at his, I don't believe you can find the old spec, but the new specs a much larger PCAMP battery elimination circuit. At this point, though, I went into I guess overdrive mode and decided I was going to use a much bigger BEC. So physically, it actually doesn't fit nicely inside of it. So I'm going to either take a hacksaw to the PLA or design a new cage per body.
Okay, excellent. Can you put a link to your videos or the project website in the chat? And then
I can put a link to, unfortunately, I don't have my own project website. I just haven't, bothered to do that. But I do have the WPI link. And actually, I take that back. The one he uses, the one that Kevin uses, is actually on Hackaday. So let me throw that out there for you guys.
Excellent.
Any questions, or should we move on to somebody else?
We'll get people to put the questions into the chat, and then we can go asynchronously. So would someone else like to share what they're working on?
Hi, this is Steve. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hello? Oh, okay.
Yeah,
cool.
we can hear
Hi.
you.
So, okay. Mostly just been doing a lot of 3D printing. One of the last things that happened at circuit launch was I got my rover, finally driving under Ross. I have everything hooked up. It's still telehooked, but it's using a joystick. It's using a wireless joystick, and so I have like the whole Ross pathway set up, and then it got hit by a runaway donkey car. So I've been at home mostly printing out 3D parts and making plans for the replacement and kind of like the next step for like the next set of modifications. Reconnecting.
Okay. Hey, sorry to hear about the DIY.
There we go.
car.
There we go. Yeah. Well, it exposed, some, flaws, and I was actually able to look at some of the parts that broke off, some of the shafts that broke off, and get some interesting forensics on that. Like confirm that the carbon fiber nylon, even though it snaps off, when it snaps off clean. And the parts that were screwed in, or that had like a set screw where like the motor, joined, where the shaft joined the motor coupler, or was screwed into a wheel or something like that, that all looked pretty solid. Like there was no slippage, there was no indication that it was doing anything other than just being held on really, really tightly. So, even in failure, you can do some diagnostics and get some useful information out of it. The one thing I have been doing, the replacement parts, I'm printing in polycarbonate. So that's going to be stiffer.
Okay.
And we'll look at that versus the carbon fiber nylon, which has proven to be, tough enough to drive the bot around for a couple months, but it tends to bend a little bit under. So the thinking is that the PC will be stiffly, might not lead the chassis to and running. And then
Okay.
I'll let you know, because that's
Yeah.
part of this whole project.
Very interested in the different tensile strengths and so on. Okay, Alex, you were going to say a little bit. Say hi.
Yeah, hi, I'm Alex. I'm doing a little bootstrap business doing basically perception for industrial robots and computer vision. So I have some software I'm developing and trying to find customers or people to test, which does now calibration is the latest thing I've added. So really accurate camera calibration with I think a much better UI than the default OpenCV or ROS one. And some positioning tools for mapping fiducials and localizing pretty accurately relative to them. So yeah, and I don't have a demo today, unfortunately, but we can talk offline if anyone's interested to know more.
If you have a
Or see
link
it.
or an email that you want to share, put it into the chat.
You can share a link.
Yeah, that's great. And what I've found works well is if anybody wants to showcase a short video, we can swap the screen share. You can be a presenter and showcase your video that way. Or take your webcam for a walkabout if you want to be more direct. But we can share things via the chat, and I'll compile this afterwards as well. Hopefully you can currently see my notes there in the screen share. So what Alex is going to post his contact into the chat. There we go. skiprobotics.com. And would anybody else like to share what they're working on? Yep, Brad. You need to unmute. I'm not hearing anything yet. You have a look. You should be.
Hello,
Yep.
class.
Sorry, Brad, I'm not hearing you yet. We'll move on to somebody else. Have a look at your audio settings because it says that you're not muted and that there is a microphone. And that means that it's probably not the microphone that you think it is. So would someone else like to say a little bit about what they're working on while Brad's sorting out? Not certain who else is on. Kiki? Yeah, that'd be cool.
Hey, so I'm soldering right now. I'm about to solder right now. I'm putting a connector on this piece. For those who don't know, what I'm working on is I'm converting the interior of my car to a Victorian tea parlor, and I'm currently working to make everything very super automated. So I won't go into the finer details because everything's apart again, but these are my very adorable indicators, which are little watches. They're all wired with LEDs, and I'm adding a connector to it right now. So,
wow, those are cool.
Thanks for sharing.
What about the lovely the troubleshooting Tweety birds? Can we see those?
Well, yeah, so these are the indicators for when tea is done. So the cardinal is for tea is done, and the little beak opens, and the head turns. Let's see. Let me go ahead and see. It runs through a little test. There's a little goldfinch too. Oh, I'm unplugged. Hold on. Let's see. Okay. So it runs through tests, so these should tweet in a little bit while my lights run right now, but oh, is it not? Oh, the let's try it again. Let's see if I've unplugged a bunch of stuff, so I'm hoping these still work.
You have an
So
eye for detail.
I'm sorry, what?
I said you have an eye for detail. Like you just keep adding more flourishes.
Yeah, so this is kind of, I know it's kind of going crazy. I bought these like probably 15 years ago. They have a little bit of a story in that I was in a CVS and they had this mega sale after Christmas, and I think they were like $10, but they were 75% off, so they were like $2.50, and I bought a whole bunch of them. And it was one of those buyer's remorse things where I bought them and I was like, oh, cool. And then about 5 seconds later, I was like, what have I done? And I've had these in my Christmas ornaments box for 15 years. And then as I was looking for something to indicate that the tea was done, I dug those out. I was like, yeah, let's reuse those. So anyway, it's been kind of fun, like figuring out how they're triggered and to kind of reverse engineer them. I'm not a hardware engineer, I'm a software engineer, so learning to do these things is like big steps for me. It's been very fun and exciting. I do have help. My husband is a hardware engineer and has been since he's about 4 years old, so he does give me tips, but this, the work is all my own. So anyway, I'm having fun making this tea engine be absolutely ridiculously automagical.
And it's fascinating to watch. I hope people get a chance to see the projects in person sometime soon. Brad, are you back and speaking? If you're there, sing out. Oh, we'll be back in a sec. Okie dokie. Is there anybody else? There might be 1 or 2 other people that are online that would like to say a few words.
I think this is really cool, actually, doing the online thing. Being up in Mendocino has made it, essentially impossible for me to make any meetings. And so this is really great. And I hope we continue this even after the crisis evaporates.
Yeah, I am realizing just how much time I lose commuting to all of the in-person events. So I'm grateful to not have that time sink for sure. And it gives people a chance to, we're no longer so localized, limited. We had a Women in Robotics meetup earlier today, and there were people from Maryland and Denver and other locations in the meetup. So that was also very, very good. Now, Brad, are you back yet? Just sing out when you're there. Or if there's somebody else that would like to say hi, say who they are and what they're working on.
I'm here. I don't know if anybody can hear me.
Yes.
Ah, okay. It's kind of the old twisted pair. I just used my cell phone here. Looks a little better. Hello to everyone that I met a couple of weeks ago in Circuit Launch. I thought I would be able to come back up there more frequently, but it looks like we're not allowed to do that anymore. So I'll get back up there at some point. One of the projects that I was working on that I kind of picked up and started around the Circuit Launch time with the TechCrunch session was I had purchased a little jet bot. And so I have NVIDIA Jetson basically making it into a chase the dog around the house robot. As soon as it recognizes the dog, it takes off. I had to go through and mod some packages that NVIDIA so nicely provided on GitHub, but it looks like just because of the kit and all the other hardware components that they had, they have some, I guess there's some incompatibilities, but I got it up and running somewhat, and since I lost my camera when I had the audio trouble, this is sitting to my left here, and when it recognizes a dog, it decides to go after it. So I'm trying to work on some path planning right now with it, but and then it'll be kind of complete, and hoping to kind of dress it up like a little dog to chase the other little dog around. So.
Well, that'll be cute. And then if you can connect it to the internet, it could be, you could connect it to Remo TV, and then everyone could drive it around too.
That's right. You're reading my mind. So we have a very active Shih Tzu and a Beagle, so they wouldn't mind getting chased around by whoever. So gets them tired.
Oh, excellent. Well, hopefully we can see it next time. And as we refine this online meetup process, we'll get more people preparing, say, some little videos of the works that they've got in progress and things that we can screen share and, really make it a show and tell for everybody. And that's going to be particularly good for those large projects that you couldn't pick up and bring in to the meetup too. So I'm going to put out a request to everybody, actually. I am always looking for people with very cool robots and projects to feature in some way or another. So to line up a few more people to speak in the next Bots&Beer in 2 weeks' time, or in some speaker sessions before then, and to put material on the Silicon Valley Robotics website as well. We've got a number of themed areas that we're focusing on. Construction is one, retail is another, and so is health robotics and space robotics. And right now, we're going to be focusing on robots for coronavirus and or social good. And in fact, any technology that we as a robotics community can provide that can help out. So I'm working tonight on a post connecting some of the resources, some of the asks that are out there in the community. And so many of us are willing or able to share some of our time or some of our resources. And it can be hard to work out what to do with that. So I'm going through the different sites that are collecting and putting out asks. So Kiki, I think you were mentioning before about a project to make masks. And as said, I had a White House email today talking about the things that they're asking for manufacturers to provide over the next couple of weeks. And so I made sure that that got around to our robotics companies today. But many of the things that are needed are as simple as masks and sock booties, or as complex as vital monitoring systems and ventilators. But there are some groups doing engineering, helpful engineering, and the Open COVID project. And I'm compiling all those resources right now. And I hope that we are going to have an online discussion on Friday, talking with some of the people from these groups or robotics companies that are providing resources and connecting this really great, enthusiastic, and wonderfully able community. And yeah, Kiki, you're spurring me on there. That's brilliant. So, are there any other final announcements? I don't think with a small meetup we're going to extend it all the way to the usual time. I think we'll be calling the meetup to a close fairly shortly. But let me just poll the room and see if anybody has something that they want to say. and this is your opportunity.
Hi, I just wanted to say hi and introduce myself. I'm Kate. I'm in Los Angeles, so
Awesome.
haven't been able to come to any of these meetups in the past, so it's nice to join remotely. I'm not currently working on any robotics related projects, but I have a background in robotics and human-robot interaction, and it's really interesting to hear about all of the projects that people are working on.
That's great. Anybody else want to say hi?
Tamin says, saw you and Dorito.
Okay, I have a very chatty robot here in my other ear. Say hi, robot.
Hi. Hi, class. MHM.
Cool.
Bangers. And
Excellent. Anybody else before we wrap it up for the night?
I just wanted to say thanks to everybody for showing up. Thanks for organizing this online. I thought I was kind of peopled out for the day, but actually not. And having other people to chat to is, you know, and I think in small groups rather than just the full horror, you know, gigantic fire hose of like Twitter or other things. Small meetups are actually really pretty good. So thank you for doing this online, and maybe we can get, maybe we can get more people to show off their robots. I would like to get my robot onto Jill's system because it is one of those, we were talking about robots that are too big to bring. My rover is actually it's actually a pretty big bot.
Yes.
It's actually a pretty big bot, and it's hard to haul around. Anyways, thanks everybody.
So Jill goes, woohoo! But thank you, Steve. Thank you, everybody, for joining. It was really great to meet some new people and to hear from people that don't normally come to the meetups. And I love every project that people are working on. So stay posted. Yeah, love you too. I'll be posting more information about the next meetup, which hopefully will be on Friday when we get the Robots and Coronavirus meetup event organized. And we'll be doing Bots and Beer regularly, and send me your ideas.